And just like that, we are back. Hello, 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 everyone. So good to be back on LinkedIn Live. It
Indeed.
is one of the
Good morning, good
great.
afternoon, good evening, wherever you are.
Yes, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us from. Welcome. Welcome to our LinkedIn Live. Last year, we ran a series of power hours. This year, we're going to be launching, or we're running, conversations on specific elements of your business, of our business, of businesses in general. My name is Varsha, your bald business coach. And if you haven't been following my videos to say why I'm bald, go for it a little bit later. Go watch my videos and you will know why. And join
Hi,
me is.
and hi, I'm Evan. I'm your money mentor. And again, a bunch of videos out there. And yeah, really good to have you here.
So, what are we talking about today? First, what I want to talk about is this this conversation and most of the following conversations really are going to be focused on reviving old school business practices. Somewhere along the way of this incredible, innovative world of tech businesses, we have forgotten or kind of let by the wayside what it's like and why is it important and the value of setting up a strong business first. The valuations will follow. Businesses that are tech businesses, which still exist, Google, Apple, you name it, why do they still exist? Not because they are unicorns on their own right and they're way beyond that, but because there is a solid business behind the brand. And that's why at Dare to Scale, we are completely passionate about reviving old school business because they go hand in hand. Evan, over to you.
Absolutely. Look,
What are your thoughts on
that? Cash is cash. Everything else is a journal entry. And whether you're in a tech business, traditional business, it's all the same in the sense that the rules of business are immutable. How money works is immutable. It has been that way for eons, centuries, long time. And yeah, just because we're doing something fancy with tech, it doesn't mean that the old rules don't apply. I mean, consider, I don't know, if you do network marketing, for example, you start off very small. People say, oh yeah, that's just a hobby. Yeah, but you grow it big, it becomes more like a traditional business. Tech, the bigger it gets, becomes more traditional as well. So those immutable business rules still apply. And that's why we're talking about business model and having that conversation today.
Yeah, they still apply, and probably they apply because that's the key or the foundation, as I keep saying, that is the actual foundation to your business. Now, conversations like this and more usually happen during our annual planning sessions that we run now as we come towards the end of the year. If you haven't already, go ahead and register and we'll see you there because there are some phenomenal sessions to see what your next 12 months and beyond look like. Anyway, let's get back to the topic at hand. Today, we are here to talk about business model. We live in a fairly evolved entrepreneurial world, and I've been saying this for a while now. When we say business model, what is the first thing people think of? And most people, most of you must be thinking, well, what are you going to talk about the business model? Because everybody knows what a business model consists of. Know what your product is, know what pains it solves, know who you're selling to, know how much you charge for it, know how you get your money in, so on and so forth. Yes? So what are we talking about here today? That, to me, is your transactional way of looking at a business model. Get that right. Of course, you've got a product out there and you sell. No doubt about it. Tip number 1. Tip number 2, tip number 3 are peeling those layers even further. And you as a founder of the business, you as a CEO of the business, you as whatever role you play in the business, it's important to know that a business model is way beyond those transactions. So these three things is where we're going to be taking it old school.
Yeah. I mean, it's that tactical view. Look, I remember in the corporate world, there's very much a how-to tactical kind of way of doing things, and it's a very sort of low level, if you will. So what Ross is talking about is it's a bigger picture than you think.
Very much so. So point number one, your business model is not an element in isolation. Your business model is an element of your original strategy document. Your business model is part of your original business plan, if you will. I like to call it a strategy document because strategy document is something that stays alive, stays current, stays active and looked at and refined at every milestone. So your business model is not a transactional view in isolation. It forms part of your main strategy document. So if you are looking at it in isolation, pick it up, please, and place it back where it belongs as part of your original strategy, as part of today's strategy. And strategy, remember, is a thinking process. It's not a how-to. More on that, because I think tomorrow is when my podcast episode releases on exactly this. So go ahead and listen to it tomorrow, but that's for tomorrow. Today, we're talking about picking up that business model and placing it firmly with your strategy.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about this in the book, Dare to Scale. Yeah, learn to run a business. And, you've got the 5 elements that we talk about, and none of them work in isolation.
No.
Cash doesn't just happen by itself. Your delivery, your customers, it's just a whole lot. Nothing happens in isolation.
And that brings us very nicely to point number 2. Your business model doesn't operate in isolation. Your business model, in fact, also then dictates how the large part of the rest of your company works to deliver your business model. Because remember, a business model is only as good as it is replicable. The finer the replication, the finer your business model. Does that make sense? Evan, am I making sense?
Totally. I mean, it's when you first start, there's as you grow your team, it's like the mini me kind of thing where you're replicating yourself so that you can actually serve more customers. And I mean, bearing in mind the key thing you're looking for in sort of ultimately with any business is a steady flow of customers and predictable sales, and seamless operations and consistent. Well, you're going to talk about that, but it's about your delivery.
It is about your delivery.
Around that.
So, what aspects of your business does a finely tuned business model dictate and become finely tuned because of what is being put together in the background? 3 things. People. Who are the people who are actually delivering this? Not just people directly in the front line delivering the business model, people within your company. Second, processes. Processes which are reviewed, tested, refined, reviewed, tested, refined, reviewed, tested, refined, reviewed, tested, refined. I cannot repeat it long enough because that, with these amazing people you have in your company, is what then dictates the customer experience, making your business model replicable with the exact results that you want and the exact results that your customer, or now hopefully your client, has come to expect from you. It also dictates another segment which is less talked about, which is corporate governance, but more on that later. At a later date, we will peel back those layers with that connection. But importantly, know that business model doesn't operate in isolation. There are 3 other aspects that are interdependent.
Actually, Washa, I remember you saying that the talk of business model came up in the .com era, so like 22 years ago.
Yes.
It was a big thing then, really big
thing
then.
It was.
And that's because nobody understood tech. Today we've got a much better handle on tech, but there's still a lot of questions as to it doesn't defy all the business rules, and business model is not the be all end all. As you say, it works with and in conjunction with everything else.
Yeah. Because at that stage it was about proving a concept.
Yeah.
Proving a business model. If that works, everything else will fall into place. Yeah. Was the view. Today, in large part, the focus is still on getting your business model right. What we are saying is, what about the rest of it?
Yeah.
You will absolutely, every single tech company that starts with a view and the ambition, and good for you, because ambition is what drives a lot of action.
Yeah.
We start with the ambition to become the next unicorn. Not every single tech company becomes a unicorn. Remember, it's the business that lasts. We have our own views on that, but we'll talk about that more in detail at a later date.
Rachel, there's one thing I want to just highlight over here is one of the things that you will always ask when you're coaching, and I will ask as well. What do you actually sell?
Yeah.
And it's surprising how many entrepreneurs can't really answer that, because they focus on the sexy business model aspect, if you will, and trying to work out what differentiation or whatever it is, trying to tweak things to make it sort of sexy, forgetting that there's a bigger picture strategy, how you relate to your customer. And in fact, one of the things you were talking about was customer experience. Doing that and delivering that consistently. I mean, end of the day, nobody really cares. I mean, you and I don't care how sexy business model is unless it actually serves the customer. And as an end user, that's exactly what we look for.
Speaking of, that brings us again to the point number 3 that today we're going to be talking about. What is a business model essentially? Who are you talking to when you talk about a business model? You are talking to human beings, whether it is your client or your suppliers, people within the company, investors in the company, partners in the company. You are actually still talking to human beings. So if your business model is a transactional one, or rather, let me put it the other way. The point is, your business model essentially needs to tell a story. If your business model doesn't tell a story, then it is only a transaction. And there is only so much engagement, loyalty, brand presence, everything that goes along with it, brand promise, will it uphold without a story. There's only so much. Eventually, you're talking to humans. So if your brand promise doesn't tell a story, it's only a transaction. How deep have you peeled that layer? How deep have you peeled? Yes, we go back to the basics. Whose problem, whose pain are you solving? What led to you starting this business? What led to you developing this product? Why do you do what you do? Everything goes together and brings us very nicely back to point number 1. Everything forms part of your strategy document. Everything is interrelated. Everything is interdependent.
Yeah. And if it's just transactional, remember, I mean, you're talking about a commodity. If it's relational, where you're entering into the conversation your client is having in their head and helping them solve that problem, then it and again, that's about the story. Then you're actually running a business,
That's the one. Everything that you do in your business, most times we look at stuff as transactions because we're so involved in solving day-to-day fires, solving day-to-day operational issues somewhere along the line. Keep the focus on the fact that you are interacting with humans at every level. Engage, communicate, tell a story. Isn't that what business model is actually all about? And then you see how the magic happens in the market.
Oh, totally.
On that note, thank you for joining us. keep
course.
coming back, because we'll be running a lot of these, and we're looking forward to having these conversations with you. Make sure you send in your questions as soon as the event goes live. Keep an eye. And if you have any questions that you would like us to address during the conversation, you will know the topic beforehand anyway. Send in your questions at evan_leclue@daretoscale.com. And we will include those in our conversation, address them. And hopefully when you join in, we can actually have a chat together.
Yep. And that email address is going to be in the comments below.
Yes.
So go and have a look for that. And Amanda's actually shared the annual business planning link as well.
Oh yeah, that too.
Absolutely. So as we come to the end of the year, planning for next year is paramount. You know, the VUCA times just keep getting more VUCAing, don't they? So
Well,
it's a matter of getting a handle on where you want to be next year.
fabulous. We'll catch up soon. Have a brilliant day in the meantime, and we'll keep talking. Bye for
Be well,
now.
be safe. Cheers.